Good evening and a very warm welcome to the news on Sansad TV. I'm Isha Shah. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll scan the most significant national and international developments of the day. Let's begin with the headlines. India will not rest till terrorism is uprooted, asserts Prime Minister Modi at the No Money for Terror conference, warns that nations supporting terrorism will face consequences. Protecting a terrorist is equivalent to promoting terrorism, says Home Minister Amit Shah, emphasizes that terror financing is more than terrorism itself. Scrutiny of nomination papers completed for the second phase of Gujarat Assembly elections, withdrawal of nominations by the 21st of November. ISRO achieves another milestone, launches India's first private rocket, Vikram S from Sriharikota. Prime Minister describes successful test as a historic moment. And now, let's take a look at our flash news segment. India slams Pakistan for raising Kashmir issue at United Nations debate, says Islamabad's bid to peddle falsehoods deserves contempt. India releases draft of new data protection bill, proposes penalty of up to 500 crore rupees. Government clarifies that there is adequate availability of fertilizers in the country to meet the needs of farmers during the Rabi season. Prime Minister Modi to formally inaugurate the Kashi Tamil Samagam in Varanasi tomorrow. Union Minister Piyush Goyal calls for self-regulation within the media and entertainment industry, asserts that absence will trigger demands for government's intervention. Indian Army celebrates the 242nd Corps of Engineers Day. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan and Chief of Army Staff General Manoj Pandey convey their best wishes. 38 Indians trapped by fake job offers by an international crime syndicate in Myanmar repatriated. At least 21 people killed and many others injured in fire at a building in Gaza Strip. Blaze broke out in a 4-story building in Jabalia refugee camp. At least 20 people, including 12 children, killed and many others injured after a van falls into a water-filled ditch in Pakistan's flood-hit Sindh province. And the first T20 international match of the 3-match series between India and New Zealand abandoned due to rain. Next match to be played on Sunday. And now, let's focus on our top story of the day. Some countries support terrorism as part of their foreign policy, while others do so indirectly by blocking action against terrorists. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said this on Friday. He was addressing representatives of more than 70 countries and international organizations in New Delhi at the 3rd Ministerial Conference on No Money for Terror organized by the Ministry of Home Affairs. The Prime Minister stressed the need to isolate organizations and individuals that try to create sympathy for terrorists. He pointed out that it is well known that terrorist organizations get money from many sources. Let's listen in.
Certain countries support terrorism as part of their foreign policy. They offer political, ideological and financial support to them. International organizations must not think that the absence of war means peace. Proxy wars are also dangerous and violent. There must be a cost imposed upon countries that support terrorism.
Now, without naming any country, the Prime Minister said that countries supporting terrorism should be made to pay the price. He asserted that the world needs to stand united against all forms of direct and indirect support to terrorism.
There can be no ifs and buts entertained in such matters. The world needs to unite against all kinds of overt and covert backing of terror. Friends, one of the sources of terror funding is organized crime. Organized crime should not be seen in isolation. These gangs often have deep links with terrorist outfits. The money made in gun running, drugs, and smuggling is pumped into terrorism.
Now, describing the financing of terrorism as a bigger threat than terrorism, Union Minister Amit Shah said the world should adopt the strategy of one mind, one approach on the matter. Addressing the third ministerial conference on no money for terror in New Delhi, he said that patronizing terrorists is equal to promoting terrorism, and it is a collective responsibility of all countries that such elements and such countries never succeed in their intentions. He also said that terrorists are constantly finding new ways to perpetrate violence, radicalize youth, and raise financial resources.
अल-कायदा के साथ साथ दक्षिण एशिया में लश्कर तोयबा और जैसे मोहम्मद जैसे गुट बेखौफ होकर आज भी आतंक फैलाने का प्रयास में है। हमें कभी भी आतंकवादियों के पनाहगाहों या उनके संसाधनों की अनदेखी नहीं करनी चाहिए। ऐसे तत्वों को स्पॉन्सर करने वाले तथा इनको सपोर्ट करने वाले डबल स्पीक को भी हमने उजागर करना पड़ेगा।
And let us now take a look at news related to the Gujarat Legislative Assembly elections. Scrutiny of nomination papers for 93 seats for the second phase of Gujarat Assembly elections was completed on Friday. The nominations can be withdrawn till the 21st of November. Campaigning intensified for the 89 seats in the first phase of elections. 788 candidates are in the fray for these seats. Of the 182 assembly seats in Gujarat, polling will be held for 89 seats on the 1st of December and for 93 seats on the 5th of December. Counting of votes will be held on the 8th of December.
गुजरात विधानसभा के आम चुनाव के पहले चरण में 89 सीटों में 788 प्रत्याशी फाइनल हुआ है। मोरबी में प्रथम चरण में मोरबी सीट पर होने वाला चुनाव में 17 प्रत्याशी होने से 2 बैलेट यूनिट और सूरत के लिंबायत मतक्षेत्र में 44 प्रत्याशी होने के कारण 3 बैलेट यूनिट उपयोग में लिया जाएगा।
And news now from the campaign trail in Gujarat. BJP President JP Nadda on Friday held several public meetings in Gujarat. Except the BJP, he said that all parties that came to power have only done vote bank politics. Only the BJP has worked on the mantra of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka Vishwas, he asserted. At a public meeting in Mandvi, Union Minister Anurag Singh Thakur said that after the arrival of Prime Minister Modi, the number of doctors has doubled in the country. What Modi did in 8 years, the Congress could not do in 60 years. Union Minister Purushottam Rupala campaigned in Gujarat. In Vadodara's Sayajiganj Assembly constituency, he held a road show and asked for votes for the party's candidate. NSUI National President Neeraj Kundan, Congress Secretary Ramkishan Ojha and party spokesperson Alok Sharma participated in Vidyarthi Parivartan Sankalp program in Rajkot. He interacted with the students and appealed to them to vote in favor of the Congress party. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath addressed a rally in Bharuch's Jhagaya Assembly constituency. He criticized the previous Congress governments. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma held a rally in Kutch. He said that Rahul Gandhi's statement of Veer Savarkar has exposed his anti-national and anti-Hindu ideology. Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan reached Kutch for an election rally. He targeted Congress leader Rahul Gandhi and Arvind Kejriwal in his speech there. Robots have also entered the Gujarat Assembly elections. One of them was seen distributing the BJP's pamphlets. The BJP is also planning to use the robot for door-to-door campaigning. Now, in a landmark moment for the country's space journey, India on Friday successfully launched its first privately made rocket developed by a 4-year-old startup, Skyroot Aerospace, marking the entry of the private sector into the country's space activities, which is currently dominated by ISRO. Let's take a look.
Developed rocket Vikram S launched 3 payloads in 500-kilometer low inclination orbit. It later safely splashed into the sea as part of the mission.
We are very excited to announce that we scripted history today by successfully launching India's first privately developed rocket, Vikram S. The vehicle reached space to an altitude of 89.5 kilometers and completed the required mission objectives. This Praram mission, as the name signifies, is the beginning of a new era in the Indian space ecosystem.
The vehicle integrated into the launcher soared after lifting off at 11:30 am at ISRO's Satish Dhawan Space Center. The 3 payloads are from Chennai-based startup Space Kids, Andhra Pradesh-based N-Space Tech, and Armenian Bazoom Q Space Research Lab. FunSat, a 2.5 kg payload belonging to Chennai-based Space Kids, was developed by students from India, US, Singapore, Seychelles, and Indonesia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the launch as historic and bears testimony to the immense talent of India's youth who took full advantage of the landmark space sector reforms of June 2020. Union Minister Jitendra Singh said it is indeed a new beginning.
It's also a major step forward to India developing its own space ecosystem and emerging as a frontline nation in the community of world nations. And of course, a turning point in India's startup movement.
Friday's mission is a significant milestone for Skyroot Aerospace as it would help test and validate majority of the technologies in the Vikram series of orbital-class space launch vehicles. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Moving on now, Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar presided over the 21st Governing Body meeting and 20th Governing Council meeting of the Indian Council of World Affairs at Sapru House in New Delhi. The Vice President said that India is moving ahead at a pace like never before. He emphasized the need to tell the new India story as the country embarks on an ambitious journey and stands as a shining example in the changing global dynamics. And turning our attention to Mumbai now, where Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla addressed the inaugural function of the World Congress of Accountants 2022. The Lok Sabha Speaker said that since the establishment of Chartered Accountants Organization ICAI in 1949, Chartered Accountants have been doing the work of auditing the accounts of the country's economy with transparency and responsibility. He said that Chartered Accountants have an important role to play in establishing a prosperous economic system and as agents of economic change.
भारत एक एग्रीकल्चर का बहुत बड़ा इलाका है, इसलिए हमें और सेक्टर के साथ साथ एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर के अंदर किस तरीके से हम किसानों की आय को बढ़ा सकते हैं, उनके प्रोडक्ट का वैल्यू एडिशन बढ़ा सकते हैं, ताकि एक मजबूत आर्थिक तंत्र हम स्थापित कर सकें। और मुझे विश्वास है कि आपकी नेतृत्व क्षमता के आधार पर इस दुनिया के अंदर भारत की इकोनॉमी को ग्रोथ करने में अगर सबसे बड़ा कंट्रीब्यूशन होगा तो आपका होगा।
Now, a joint security drill of the Israeli embassy in Delhi and the Home Affairs Ministry was held on Friday in New Delhi. The Delhi Police, NSG, Fire Brigade and Delhi Traffic Police participated in the drill, apart from embassy and ministry staff. The drill was aimed at building security preparedness and emergency planning. It was the largest ever security exercise of its kind to be conducted in a civilian area between India and Israel. It is part of the cooperation between the two nations against terrorism. And time now for a short break in the bulletin. Lots more coming up on the other side. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. Let's take a look now at all the latest from the Russia-Ukraine crisis. More than 10 million Ukrainians have been left without electricity after dozens of Russian air attacks on the country's energy infrastructure. Electricity and water supplies have been badly hit across Ukraine. The Kremlin said that the attacks on civilian infrastructure were a result of Ukraine failing to negotiate to end the nearly 9-month war. The Pentagon has said that the United States' own munitions readiness levels are intact, as it has been providing more than $18 billion in weapons and equipment to Ukraine. Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh said that the United States is not going to dip below the readiness levels. She added that the United States is assessing its readiness levels with each assistance that it is announcing. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister said that Russia is not ruling out further high-level meetings with the United States on strategic stability. He said that if the Americans show interest and readiness, Russia will not refuse. Strategic stability is a term that Russia and the United States use to reduce the risk of a nuclear war. Russian and US officials are expected to meet soon in Egypt from the 29th of November to 6th of December to discuss the New START nuclear arms reduction treaty. Russia and Ukraine have agreed to extend the agreement to allow grain exports from Ukrainian ports through a safe corridor in the Black Sea. The deal that was brokered by the United Nations and Turkey was set to expire on Saturday. However, it will now continue for at least another 4 months. A statement by UN Secretary General said that he welcomed the agreement by all parties to continue the Black Sea Grain Initiative. Nearly 11 million tons of grain and foodstuffs have been exported under the agreement. And convoys of military and unmarked vehicles arrived in Poland today as investigations into the missile strike that killed 2 in a village close to Ukrainian border continues. Warsaw and its Western allies say that evidence from the scene points to the explosion being caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile that went astray in pursuit of a Russian missile. Kiev denies this, saying that it has evidence of a Russian trace in the blast. And now, let's take a look at some more news from other parts of the globe. Let's turn to Egypt now, where a first formal draft of the UN Climate Summit deal was released on Friday. The draft left out India's call for phase down of all fossil fuels and made no mention of any proposal on loss and damage funding. It, however, reaffirmed that limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius requires rapid and deep emission cuts. Loss and damage refer to the consequences of climate change that go beyond what people can adapt to, or when a community does not have the resources to utilize options. Rich countries have avoided discussions on this for over a decade. Experts said it is surprising that the call for phasing down all fossil fuels did not find a place in the draft text, despite most developing countries and some developed nations, including the United States and the European Union, supporting it. India had proposed last Saturday that the talks wrap up with a decision to phase down all fossil fuels and not just coal. And turning closer home to Bangkok now, where threats to peace and stability dominated the agenda of the Summit of Pacific Rim Economies on Friday. Leaders warned that war and tensions among the big powers are disrupting the global order. Underscoring the risks, North Korea fired an intercontinental ballistic missile that landed near Japanese territorial waters. Let's take a look at this report.
leaders of the 21-member Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum began their annual summit meeting on Friday against a backdrop of major global challenges. The war in Ukraine, great power rivalries, inflation, climate change and fending off the pandemic are among the issues that will dominate their third back-to-back meeting in a week, this time at a heavily guarded venue in Thailand's capital, Bangkok. In his opening remarks, Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha said the region is still reeling from the impact of the COVID pandemic and that the situation has become even worse because of climate change. Addressing summit leaders, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said geopolitical tensions are detracting the world from peace and stability and undermining the rules-based international order. The war in Ukraine has pushed food and energy prices sharply higher, disrupting supply chains and hindering the world's recovery from the pandemic. It's also a challenge for APEC's consensus-oriented efforts. None of the earlier APEC preparatory meetings this year issued statements due to disagreements over whether to mention the conflict. Among those attending are Chinese President Xi Jinping, US Vice President Kamala Harris, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, Chilean President Gabriel Boric, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Moving on now, a Dutch court on Thursday convicted 2 Russians and a pro-Moscow Ukrainian separatist in absentia of the murders of 298 people who died in the 2014 downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 over Ukraine and sentenced them to life imprisonment. One Russian was acquitted because of a lack of evidence. Let's find out more.
A Dutch court said that evidence presented by prosecutors at a trial that lasted more than 2 years proved that Boeing 777 flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur was brought down by a Buk missile fired by pro-Moscow Ukrainian fighters on July 17, 2014. The crash scattered wreckage and bodies over farmland and fields of sunflowers. Against the geopolitical upheaval caused by Russia's full-blown invasion of Ukraine, the court also held that Moscow had overall control of the separatist Donetsk People's Republic in eastern Ukraine, from where it said the attack was launched. Prosecutors and the suspects have 2 weeks to file an appeal. The most senior defendant convicted is Igor Girkin, a 51-year-old former colonel in Russia's Federal Security Service or FSB. At the time of the downing, he was defense minister and commander of the armed forces of the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, the region where the plane was shot down. Girkin reportedly is currently involved in Russia's war on Ukraine. Also convicted were Girkin's subordinates Sergei Dubinsky and Leonid Kharchenko, a Ukrainian who prosecutors say was commander of a pro-Russia rebel combat unit and took orders directly from Dubinsky. Oleg Polatov is the only one of the suspects who was acquitted, was represented by defense lawyers at the trial. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And let's take a look now at our Global Wrap segment. North Korea fired a missile on Friday that Japan said had sufficient range to reach the United States mainland. The intercontinental ballistic missile reached a height of 6,000 kilometers and covered a range of 1,000 kilometers. It landed about 200 kilometers west of Oshima Island. Hundreds of Twitter employees are estimated to be leaving the social media company after an ultimatum from its new owner, Elon Musk, that staffers should sign up for long hours at high intensity or leave on Thursday. Over 24 Twitter employees across the United States and Europe announced their departures in public Twitter posts with the hashtag #LoveWhereYouWorked. A workplace poll reportedly said that 42% of 180 people said, taking exit option, I'm free. US House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the first woman to hold that influential post, said on Thursday that she will step down as the Democratic leader in the chamber a day after Republicans secured a narrow majority following the midterm elections. Pelosi, an 82-year-old liberal from California who has served 2 stints as Speaker, said that she will remain in the Congress, representing San Francisco in the House as she has done for 35 years. Nepal will hold parliamentary elections on Sunday, the fourth since the Himalayan nation abolished a centuries-old monarchy. Election results are likely to take days as some ballot boxes need to be carried from remote mountain villages. Elected members in parliament will choose a prime minister who will have to get support of half the total members. Election issues include the revival of the tourism industry and balancing foreign relations. And NASA's new Webb Space Telescope has found a galaxy that was likely formed just 350 million years after the Big Bang, nearly 14 billion years ago. If confirmed in the coming months, it will be the most distant galaxy identified by the Hubble Space Telescope by 50 million years. Webb is indicating that stars may have formed much sooner after the Big Bang than previously thought. And time now for all the latest from the world of sports. The first T20 international of the three-match series between India and New Zealand was called off without a ball being bowled due to incessant rain in Wellington on Friday. The second match of the T20 series will be played on Sunday. Star paddler Manika Batra became the first Indian woman to reach the semi-finals of the Asian Cup table tennis tournament with a stunning 4-3 win. The three-day competition in Bangkok will include men's and women's singles events. Taylor Fritz advanced to the final four of the ATP finals with a 7-6, 6-7, 6-2 victory on Thursday at the ATP finals. The American will face five-time champion Novak Djokovic in the semis. The biggest football event, FIFA World Cup, is all set to be held in Qatar between 20th November to 18th December. The tournament opener will see hosts Qatar go up against Ecuador on Sunday. And Wimbledon has relaxed its all-white clothing rule in order to allow female competitors to wear dark undershorts at the Grand Slam tournament. And with that, it's a wrap of the bulletin this evening. Thank you for watching Sansad TV. See you tomorrow. Good night.